Well, as we're slowly coming to a close on the year of 2024, it's time to look on to the year of 2025, as the industry never really stops chugging along. And by this point, especially from our perspective of covering pretty much every animated trailer we can along the way, we now have a good collection of movies that we know are to be coming out in the next 12 months, so naturally, there's plenty to look forward to. But some, maybe we're more looking forward to than others. This is my list, at least, of the most anticipated 2025 animated movies. So starting off at the very bottom of our list of the ones I guess I'm least anticipating, the one I'm not exactly looking forward to. And again, it's a bit of an odd one from my point of view because even if a movie is incredibly terrible, I can anticipate it for all the wrong reasons. So really, to me, the most neutral I have okay thoughts about it so far is, from all places, Netflix's The Twits. Does it necessarily mean I think this movie's gonna be absolute trash? No, not at all. Netflix movies are usually one of those things where I always know that they're gonna be coming out in some form, and I have no real idea about what the quality or content of the movie's really gonna be until it's out. I mean, for the whole last 12 months, I've had Spellbound looming over me, and only when it came out did I even realize it was a John Lasseter production. Even still, The Twits we do know a little bit about contextually, since it is from the classic Roald Dahl story. And on top of that, we have heard additional bits and bobs and details and news around the project, but obviously, as of right now, I haven't even really got footage to show you officially. There is so little to know about this movie other than the fact it's being made. And the concept itself, it's not got me frothing at the mouth to consider. We will come to quickly see there are a lot of sequels and remakes coming in the future. That's just the way the industry is right now. So to see something faintly original, the first attempt of an adaptation, is at least nice on that grand scheme. And I do remember as a kid really enjoying the Twits as books. But again, I haven't really approached those in like 15 years, if not more than that. But it seems fun. The art style from the few imageries we have seen do seem very, very grand. I'm of course endlessly curious to see the changes and adaptations they've made along the way, but otherwise, the only other time we've really covered this project is when it was briefly shown inside of a Netflix animation compilation video at like the midway part of the year. I'm sure it'll be a perfectly palatable movie, but for now, I'm quite neutral on the whole thing. And that's okay too. Moving on up from there, I think I might have a problem. Maybe I'm the poster child for why movies keep making sequels anyway, because my next least anticipated movie is Pixar's Elio. I think it's one of those things where it's just natural in the industry right now that everything is way too oversaturated in making sequels and reboots and remakes. It's clearly what makes the most money. It just successfully works, easily. But also, nobody else is really doing original. I think there are 2 original Pixar movies because that's their business model, and I don't really like either of them. Both Elio and the 2026 movie Hoppers don't seem that enthralling for an original story so far. And it's not even that I'm a super fan of them making a 6th Ice Age movie instead. It's just a matter of these original movies just don't get me going yet. A classic alien story, a kid will get abducted. The only thing it's got going for it is the kid wants to be abducted first. A lot of it's gonna get its quality based on how well its actual final product ends up to be, and maybe the marketing can not delay itself for 2 years and maybe show something more heartfelt and emotional that it's clearly going to lean into eventually. But where I stand right now in December of 2024, yeah, it's alright. These movies at the bottom of the anticipation list are very much just neutral, boring, uninvesting in any kind of form. It doesn't make it the worst, but it certainly doesn't make it the best. Until I am to be pleasantly surprised. I'd love that. If a Pixar original movie could be the most successful movie of the year, that'd be great. And it's original either, not even just adapted from a book like The Wild Robot from this year. That's DreamWorks, but you get the same idea. Either way, I'm anticipating at most other trailers to fill in the void. But beyond that, it's probably the one most at the back of my mind. Only ahead of Netflix movies that are even more in the back of the brain. And Inside Out 2 just taught us all about that. So moving up in the list for all the wrong reasons, I'm going to actually do a double bill of movies. They're by the same people, it's basically the same universe, but this is what I expect to be one of the most terrible movies of the next year, and that's why I'm at least slightly anticipating it as much as I'm going to pull my hair out watching it. It is Paramount's Golden Child, the Nickelodeon movies, SpongeBob, The Search for SquarePants, a movie coming out at the end of 2025 supposedly, as well as the Plankton movie, which is a thing that exists. I think you know very well at this point my opinion of the SpongeBob movies. It has been a sharp, consistent, indeliberate decline of quality over the years, and the Sandy Cheeks movie is the most egregious, terrible example of the whole thing so far. So to see another spin-off, a Plankton movie on the side, I just expect it to be all the same exact quality, design, and aesthetic. There's no chance they're taking genuine criticism and trying to improve themselves. These movies are products more than anything, a stain compared to its former glory, and I'd love it to do well. I'm always going to watch these movies to some capacity, but it has taught us time and time again just how far down a franchise can go. I abhor the fact that I'm gonna have to spend 3 or 4 hours next year watching these movies, and then even more if I go back to revisiting it and editing it and trailers and actually, putting time and thought and writing into it. But man, at the same time, I can't help but have some sort of ironic glee in my face thinking about these movies. They're like a gift that can't stop giving, and you really want it to stop giving. I have a raucous of a time creating terrible episodes around these movies, and I've practically caught up now. 1, 3, and 4 done, and number 2 I did like a proper review breakdown back in like 2020. So I guess in that sense, I very much do another SpongeBob movie or 2 this year, just so that I can make all the more content out of it. I'm very much dissociated on expecting good quality art by any form. Maybe there'll be the occasional joke I can enjoy in the middle, but it's a terrible movie that's consistently there to remind us it exists. And for that, I at least anticipate it for all the wrong reasons. SpongeBob movie 2025, I think will be slightly better, so I'm anticipating a little bit lower in the anticipation list, but Plankton the movie? Oh, that sounds like some straight trash. Or who knows, maybe they'll get their act together. Can Plankton uphold his own movie? I mean, his voice actor's certainly got the talent for it. He's gonna be stuck to a bastardized version of SpongeBob the whole time, isn't he? Yeah, I can already sense it. Oh well. Moving on up our anticipation list is a movie slot that's not necessarily animated. It is animated, but it counts as a live action, so we'll only touch on it a little bit. It's the Disney live-action remake in the form of Lilo and Stitch. Is it too wrong to say I'm gonna call this animation? It is. It's a CGI animated character, and I'm probably allowed to make a video on this movie as an animation YouTube channel, so I will. Lilo and Stitch as an original brand back when it was 2D was probably, well, I don't know if I could say it's my favorite Disney movie. There are a lot of Disney movies, and a lot of them I watched while going to sleep, so I'm not sure if I could exactly rank them as the most favorite, but it's certainly a stellar one, and even the sequel is actually good, which is a surprise for a Disney movie. This will likely be a movie that is good, and whilst I can anticipate Plankton the movie for being absolutely terrible, this, I think, will be palatable, but enjoyable. It's interesting. I think this is probably one of the more intriguing live-action remakes for me. Like, there is also the Snow White one, which I actually haven't got on this list, I guess because I'm not anticipating it at all. That seems like a straight, soulless, simple live-action remake. Like, it's so prettified. The Lilo and Stitch brand, for it being so parodious in its own nature, the fact that it is so mischievous and turning that into CGI, makes me have hope that it could be at least a little bit more than what it already is. I mean, they've slightly done the whole Stitch interrupts other Disney projects in its marketing by doing a poster about Moana 2, not a full-on rip or anything, and hopefully they will do video stuff, because, like, why can't live-action CGI Stitch interrupt the live-action CGI universe of Disney remakes? That seems like a lot of fun in its own way. I guess they have to refilm stuff, and that's the hurdle there. Snow White's going on right now. Get this. I guess it's already done as well. They've already finished filming. Whatever. This, I think I'm actually intrigued by. I don't, again, expect it to be that great, but I don't think I'm going to be pulling my hair out quite as badly as Plankton the movie, which is why it's bumped up a little bit higher. This might very well be... I want to say this will probably be the last Disney live-action movie I'll be interested in, but honestly, Hercules sounds both incredibly terrible if it is taking the TikTok approach, but also genuinely seeing a Herculean storyline with a Disney budget sounds pretty good. After that, I'm sure they're doing Frozen and Tangled, and I'll be watching those too. I was always going to watch these movies, okay? I'm a movie reviewer to a certain extent. Not official, not certified. It's a massive asterisk next to that title. I can't help but financially support these movies. My apologies. At least it's one across the board. I'm keeping it even. Even still, let's get into the movies we are genuinely starting to get interested in. I think Lilo and Stitch is the last of the neutral collection. This next movie is one that's bounced up and down the anticipation list as it keeps defining itself closer and closer to its core, closer to the release. This is a Minecraft movie. Again, I realize it's live action, and this one's especially live action, but there's some CGI animation. They turn the villagers into 3D people, but I think it's a movie big enough that it's worth talking about on this channel as well. I actually anticipated this movie a little bit more when we only had the first trailer to go off of. This looked like the biggest stinker of the year, beyond Plankton the movie as well, when it looked like it was all legitimately all in front of a 2D green screen. I was waiting to bash on top of this movie. With the second trailer, it looks, it's got its problems, sure, but it looks better. There's a lot more love, care, and attention put into it. There is props and actual set. Gosh, the bar is so very low. I think this will be a genuine melting pot of an event on the same kind of reins as the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It's unfortunately kind of a success now. You can't just dogpile on it, but it did great for clickbait. Maybe that was part of the marketing intention. If that's the case, respect, I guess. Either way, now with it looking to be a genuinely good movie, I'm not actually much of a Minecraft player myself. I legitimately left the gaming world of Minecraft and Call of Duty in that phase of my life and moved over to Nintendo and Pikmin exclusively around the time of Minecraft picking up. I actually made a couple Minecraft videos before I made my first ever YouTube video on this channel. It has been lost to time. It's not even on an old laptop, so I'm sorry I can't show it to you, but it certainly would be an alternative timeline I could have thought of. Man, I really missed out. Good job life finds a way and I can turn around and talk about the Minecraft movie instead. Either way, yeah, I'm anticipating this only to a certain degree. Now it just looks like a Jumanji movie. I'll watch it because it's an event. I'll love to see the Minecraft Easter eggs that I won't get because I haven't played since the Redstone update. And hey, it's Jack Black doing his thing. He surprisingly fits in the movie. Not visually, he does just look like he's wearing a blue shirt or a jumper. But I think it will be really interesting to see how well they do this video game adaptation. I do quite like my video game adaptation movies. I do also like terrible movies, so there's some sort of form of two entities handshaking there, so I guess that explains why I'm into them. But hey, it'll be an activity to keep an eye on for the year of 2025. Beyond that though, there is a more influential, perhaps, event going on in 2025, a murmuring for the industry to move as a whole if things go well, as much as this is video game adaptations done well, which usually makes a nice ripple effect. No, the next one on our list, hey there, thank you for making it halfway through this little list. If you're interested in more general animated movie speak, come along and subscribe. If you've got prompts for other things to cover, I'd be happy to hear it. But otherwise, let's get back to the second half of the video. Again, fighting the definition of animation, it's the How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake. Hey, the dragons are pretty CGI animated, we're running with it. This will be an interesting movie to see, and I'm quite anticipating it because it is just an animated remake. Sure, we've had live-action remakes from 2D into 3D, but to see a 3D movie done in real 3D, this could be the kind of movie that pushes its own kind of movement. It could be a whole new level of regurgitation. I don't necessarily want to support it. I don't want to say, hey, turn every movie into live action, unless it's an underrated one that was dead otherwise, like Treasure Planet or Meet the Robinsons. And I guess, to be fair, How to Train Your Dragon was also dead because it ended. But still, I think this will be a really interesting movie, and I know this will be a good one. As much as the trailer was just a shot-for-shot remake of the initial trailer for the initial How to Train Your Dragon 1, and that in its own sense is kind of lazy and boring, we do know that this remake is being produced by the original creators, so it's going to have that heart and soul, whilst being that classic corporate duplication thing. It will be done in the best way it possibly could be. It's a shame that it exists, but I think it's going to be really interesting. I really anticipate seeing how they're going to do it and how the response is going to be. And just the whole thing in general, I'm endlessly curious to see, because this, I think, is kind of an industry first. And if it's not, it's certainly a big iconic name making this industry move to the point it will influence things later. I'm just ever curious about it. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to this damn movie. It's not making me froth in the sense of, oh, what narratives are they gonna do? Oh, I really love this, that, and the other. I think I know what to expect. So in that sense, I'm not really going to be surprised too much. Maybe they'll throw us through a loop and a random celebrity will show up or something, I doubt. But for knowing exactly what to expect, I'm ever curious to see the whole thing unfold. And even more curious to see if the businesses make any movement improvements beyond this point. I'll happily be a part of it by sitting in the cinemas. I'm just one extra ticket anyway. I doubt I really influence the waves on that front. And maybe at some point I'll get around to actually watching the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. I saw the second one and then thought, this is so good, I don't want it to end. And so I never watched the ending. Oops. Hey, I tell you what, actually, in general, I should use that as an excuse. I might make, now that I'm doing amazing episodes, I might try and finish the whole trilogy on the channel in the next year, so expect Amazing How to Train Your Dragon 1 soon, maybe. That's a thought. There's a lot of trilogies I've got to get onto. Now I've got amazing video options to do. I've got loads of things to talk about. I just like talking about movies, man. Any opportunity to find an excuse. Anyway, beyond this point in the anticipation list, I start to worry that I'm becoming the very thing I reject, in the sense that almost every other movie on this list is, unfortunately, a sequel. Or if it's not a sequel, it's an adaptation to a story that already exists. Original movies are gone in this industry now. Is that emblematic of me choosing them to be the better version that I'm more interested in seeing? Am I part of the audience problem or the business over-profiting on lazier decisions? Or is it emblematic of the fact that original stories themselves are dying? When they do an original Minecraft movie, but it's an adaptation, but still original in its own length, they do it with lazy green screening that makes it look half terrible. Or when they do it from another book adaptation in the form of the Twits, it's not really marketed enough to get that hype really going. Or it's Pixar making lukewarm concept so far, and again, making the marketing not that flourished. I don't know, but the next one on our list is Zootropolis 2. This is a movie we know is coming out in 2025. We have had nary a trailer, barely imagery, but at the recent D23 in Brazil, they announced that it exists. It's gonna be an undercover story with Nick and Judy. I quite enjoy the original Zootropolis movie. Again, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I should do a proper Disney tier list, to be honest, of what I do know, because a lot of them all clump together as good quality, but sort of, yeah, okay, neutral. Either way, I think they really nailed some of the deeper themes of the first movie to the point that I think this could very easily be a nice new stellar one. I'm looking forward to it as a good old Disney consumer, but thankfully this is the last Disney production on our list. Again, though, is that a problem that my most anticipated Disney movie upcoming prompt is a sequel? The one before that was a remake, and the one before that was not even Disney, it's Pixar, so it's not my fault, is it? I was going to ask when's the last time we got an original Disney movie, but that would be Wish, so maybe it's the writers that need an improvement, not the consumers from Disney, or anybody. When was the last time we got a good original Disney movie not based off of a prior IP or a book? That's something worth thinking about one day. Maybe I'll make a video essay on the whole status of the industry. Bit too big right now, I'm just doing a list. So in the top third slot of our list, we have the original but also book adaptation slot from DreamWorks. So last year was Orion in the Dark, and this year is Dog Man. Again, I still know absolutely nothing about this brand, but I absolutely adore the initial trailer we got. Having very much that kind of bad guysian feel, with a nice light-hearted tone, the saturations are going crazy, and me being a complete newbie to this, I'm actually really excited for this movie. It just seems like a classic, wholesome, fun time. You know it's going to be high quality because it's already adapted from something, and I think a book adaptation is seen as a little bit more morally okay than just a flat-out remake or a reboot or a live action or a sequel. This, I think, is one of those rare diamonds in the rough, and I believe it's still made by in-house DreamWorks. I don't know, man. It becomes a very slippery slope as we know the business travesty that's going on with DreamWorks as a studio right now. But the final outcome of this, that looks pretty damn good. I'm honestly quite highly anticipating it. It comes out early. It's like February 7th, so it's one of the very, very early slots of the year. And I think it'll just be stellar all the way through. You can see it all coming together. It's basically an open goal at this point. Let's just have a good animated movie experience, and let's have one in 2 months. That sounds lovely to me. Don't you think so? I'm sure as the movie comes out closer, we'll hear a little bit more of the business backgrounds and insider information. I like to believe that these people aren't being crunched to make this movie, and hopefully afterwards there's not going to be too many controversies. Like, is that too much to ask? We already ruined Pixar's Inside Out 2 and Sony's Across the Spider-Verse last time. Sony, I don't even think, have another movie coming out for 2025. They've got Beyond the Spider-Verse that seems to be in its own form of purgatory. I don't expect to see it until like 2027, to be honest. And anything else they are making is straight live action, so we skipped it in the list, you know? Things like Craven and all that. They've got murmurs of other things, all sorts of other Spider-Man productions I'm sure you can expect. But nonetheless, I guess we'll hear about about them come 2026. Second on the list is another DreamWorks production going further down the slippery slope. I don't entirely know how to feel about it, but apparently I'm anticipating it quite highly. This is DreamWorks' The Bad Guys 2. The trailer enthralled me. I gotta be honest, it looks exactly like Bad Guys 1, and that was one of the greater movies of the last few years, to be honest. The flair it brought in, the absolute style. It's a book adaptation, so you know it's gonna be good, semi-original in that sense, but also, I can't tell if this is even in-house. I feel morally unsure by the fact that this is probably being outsourced and slapped out by, morally dodgy business decisions, but also the final product becomes absolutely stellar like this, and it's hard to criticize it on the surface. Is it wrong to support a movie like The Bad Guys, knowing that it is from culling animators and going to a more lazier outsourced studio? Or does it not really matter in the grand scheme of Illumination Studios have been doing it the entire time, and they still make pretty good movies these days? I don't know, man. I feel kind of bad by how much I quite enjoy the Bad Guys 2 trailer and how high quality the movies ended up being, but I guess it could be a matter of, you don't need to play one side. If movie ends up being good, you're welcome to say it's good. If business practices turn out to be bad, you're welcome to criticize the bad business decisions at the same time. So I guess that's gonna be my take. I worked it out while saying it out loud. I'm very much anticipating this movie. I think it'll be a great one, and I'm gonna be supporting it either way because this is my job. But the fact remains, if there is anything close to a business controversy around this movie, I'm absolutely gonna be talking about it as well and calling out any crunch or culling or horror stories from the inside if it ever comes out around the time. The Bad Guys, in my mind, is kind of what put DreamWorks back on the map after the likes of the Boss Baby and the Trolls trilogy, and is a real showcase of how animators can make absolutely stellar, skillful stuff in the modern age with some nice 2D flourishes in there as well to see that some form of traditional animation isn't entirely dead other than anime. I think this can be a real nice celebration of animation prowess, and though everyone else puts it to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I still see it as The Bad Guys 2 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but again, that's Sony. The final one on our list is the one I can happily say is not a sequel, it's not a remake, I don't even think it's a book adaptation, only inspired by a concept apparently, and it comes from a very unusual source. It's not one of the bigwigs like Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, or Sony, or Paramount, or all the other ones. No, this is being handled by Viva Pictures, or at least distributed to a certain extent. This is a French movie coming out in January by the name of Night of the Zootropolis. It does look a little bit funky, but the concept is simple. It's a zombie story told entirely at a zoo, with a whole nice, diverse, creative, collectional crew of animals of all types, and it's got some celebrity collections along the way, like David Harbour. I don't know how much it's going to be emotional or heartfelt, but making a genuinely entertaining, flourishing piece of animation that's original and interesting conceptually. They're clearly going ham on the color palette and the lighting of these big glowing eyes. This looks like a quintessential classic childhood movie, except we're not children anymore. This is the kind of thing I wish every other studio was making. Just good, cool movies. Original, high quality, good writing, good animation, good concept, and then run with it. And so for it to be breaking against the odds of all these other big corporate studios making sequels and remakes, this is the movie I think will hold the real core idea of what we're here for, and I'm not just saying that because I got a surprise email giving me access to all of the press details for this movie. If I'm lucky enough to get invited to a premiere or get to learn any of the dates around upcoming trailer releases, I'm absolutely covering it because this is genuinely one of my favorite upcoming movies. It just seems to have all of the heart and soul and vibrance that I would want to see from a new animated movie, the likes of which Plankton the movie could only wish and dream about. Beyond that, I've been recording for 37.5 minutes somehow, so maybe I'll skip doing the 2026 video until the end of 2025. Those are my most anticipated 2025 animated movies. Surprisingly short list of 11 movies because a bunch haven't been properly announced or carved into concrete of when they're actually releasing. Certainly hope there's more than 11, otherwise I'm gonna have to really scrounge for the 300 video slots I've got. But for now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. What movies are you most anticipating coming forwards? Is it all in the super sequels we're getting in 26? Shrek 5, Mario 2, Ice Age 6, Toy Story 5? I'd love to hear your lists down below, and I'll see you in a little bit.